My name is Shruti Rajagopal, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about how to build for your user using principles from product management. So, a little overview of what to expect from this workshop. One, we'll go over some basics about what product management is, help you understand what that role looks like, and kind of orient you on what is product management look like before we start moving into some of the exercises. Then we'll talk a little bit more about user personas so that we can find ways to build solutions that fill a specific user's needs and make sure that whatever you're building is working to really satisfy the people who are going to use your product. We'll then use those personas to define an MVP. An MVP is also known as a minimal viable product, and that's just a way for us to figure out what is the first steps we need to take to build something that will really resonate and matter for our users. And at the end, we'll have a little quick chat about kind of what it takes to be a PM. I'll talk a little bit about my own experience transitioning into product management from engineering, and hopefully I will have taught you a lot about this new domain in tech and maybe piqued your interest on whether or not you would like to be a PM in the future. So first, let's talk a bit about product management and understand that role a little bit more. So a product manager is this intersection, or product management itself is this intersection of user experience design, technology, so development, and business. And a product manager sits at the intersection of all three of these things. They're sometimes known as the CEO of a product or the voice of a user. And a product manager basically identifies a user problem, figures out a solution for it, evangelizes that process to their company or wherever they are working, articulates a solution for that problem, and makes sure that they drive the development, launch, and continued support for that feature or product. So a PM sees themselves as the steward of an idea. They take ideas wherever they may come from. They check and see if it's something that's going to be valuable to pursue through both quantitative and qualitative research and an understanding of the market in which they serve. And they use that to really drive the direction of where a company goes. For every product that you use right now, whether it might be TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, there are product managers behind the scenes deciding how to best make that experience really good for you. So PMs create solutions for a target customer's problem in a way that is valuable, usable, and feasible. So valuable means not only does it solve a real problem and it's useful for a person, it's actually worth paying for. At the end of the day, a product manager is trying to increase the amount of users and make as much money for the work that they're doing as they can. So not only does the solution have to be something for a real problem that people are actually suffering for, but it has to be something that people are willing to either give their time or money for. We want to make sure that it's usable so that it's intuitive, it works the way it's expected to, and that it looks nice and it's something that people want to use. And then we also check if it's feasible. Is it something that we can do? Is it something realistic given the current technology that we have? Is it something that even if there is no available technology, can we build it? And within our own organization, is there enough resources to build it? And if not, how do we make those resources available? Also, we want to check and see if our idea is worth the amount of effort it's going to take to make. So one of the first steps in deciding how to move forward in building a product is you have to really understand your users. So when brainstorming a new feature or product, you'll probably have multiple users who can be grouped on a set of common behaviors. These behaviors and demographic information can really inform a certain group. So some groups can be broken along age lines, their gender, their profession, what their interests might be. And by segmenting users into personas, you can think of ways your product can meet each persona's core needs. So for example, if I were the product manager for Instagram's ads, then I'm really trying to make sure that I am addressing the core user need of people who are trying to make ads on Instagram so that they can sell their product. Addressing in-demand features for a persona makes your product more desirable and valuable. So if I'm addressing the core desire for people who are advertising on Instagram and making sure that that process for them advertising is easy and also gives them results, then they're more likely to go with Instagram ads versus other ads. So let's try to put this in practice. So imagine you're building a community swimming pool. The following are a list of features and the number of requests per feature. So we have starting blocks, ping pong table, lounge chairs, concession stands, swim lanes, branded swim caps, water slides, and a basketball court. Now, I've already done some work for you, and I've told you guys that there are 3 types of user groups that you can think of. There's competitive swimmers, teenagers, and parents. Each group has their own desires and have their own intentions when using a community swimming pool. So I'm going to ask that we take 5 minutes to group these features according to user personas. So go on ahead and pause this video. Go ahead and group the features according to user persona. And the other thing I would encourage you guys to do, should you have some time, is also rank them in terms of what you think is the highest priority. Okay, so I hope everyone got a chance to group these features under these different persona groups. But let's move on to something else and hold on to that for a little bit. So now we're going to talk about MVPs. MVP it's short for minimal viable product, and it's the narrowest set of features, the smallest set of features and functionality that you will deliver in your first it's like the first release, and it's the first valuable, usable, differentiated, and feasible version of your product. It is the bare bones, minimal amount of stuff that you can deliver to be a full product that addresses your users' needs. And the reason we do it so quick and the reason we want to do as little as possible is because we want to be really swift to go to our users and learn from them and see, based off of your learnings from the users, that informs your decision making about how to move forward with your MVP. So why use an MVP? It's fast. It accelerates your process. A faster time to market lets you learn from your customers earlier and helps you make decisions that you may not have enough information beforehand. It prevents you from going ahead and it reduces your risk. It prevents you from over-investing in features. So you might build something before an MVP and think it might be valuable, and when you go to market, you find that it isn't. So with an MVP, you avoid that overinvestment and you respond to the customer behavior and make things that actually matter and reduce your risk in the market. Internally, it helps drive focus for your team in order for them to have a really strong idea about what they're working towards. That clarity helps them move faster. It also builds consensus. You can get your team and stakeholders on the same page. So everyone inside your org understands very crisply what you're trying to deliver, and so you build more support for it and it's more likely to be released. So now let's go back to our user grouped features. Say we can only pick 3 features to build into our community swimming pool. Which 3 do you pick? Now I'm going to have you guys pause right here and take 5 minutes to pick 3 features to build into your community pool. I encourage you guys to think about why you're choosing these 3 features and think about what your strategy for those things are. All right, welcome back. So if you picked the top 3 features based on how many feature requests that it had, then no one came to your pool you built. I hope you're wondering why. So in order for someone to subscribe to our swimming pool, each segment has a few deal breakers, and it makes them want to take their business elsewhere. So what I didn't tell you is that each group had specific needs. Competitive swimmers needed to have starting blocks and swim lanes in order to buy a swimming pool membership. Teenagers needed ping pongs and basketball courts in order to join this membership. Parents needed lounge chairs, swim lanes, and a water slide. So if you picked the top 3 most requested features, then you probably picked starting blocks, a ping pong table, and lounge chairs. By delivering these 3, we didn't actually fully satisfy any one segment. So more likely than not, they're not satisfied enough with what we offer to purchase what we have. What we should have done is identify the most requested features for each group. Our MVP could only have 3 features, so we should target the needs of one core group. Which one group do you think we should pick? I'm going to ask that you guys take 5 minutes, pause the video right here, and think about what user group should we deliver features for if we can only pick 3. We should build for a competitive swimmer. Why, you ask? So teen and parent memberships are more likely to fluctuate based on multiple variables. For example, memberships may increase in the summer, but most of the year they probably won't subscribe. Maybe with teenagers, it's more likely about what's the coolest place in town to go. And that's something that is harder to control for us as a pool manager. A competitive swimmer is more likely to continue using our pool. They'll want to practice more often, they'll practice in their off season. As long as you meet their needs of having starting blocks and pool lanes, they're very happy to continue using your service. So that's just a really small teaser and kind of what it takes to think about developing for a specific user. Product management is extremely user-focused, and we make sure that we're building solutions that actually fill a need. What we did just now is just a small taster of what product managers do every day to decide what's the next best step for the features that they own. But I hope you guys are wondering now what it takes to become a product manager. So the way that I like to think about it is that there are 4 main mindsets that a product manager must take on during the course of the work that they take. No one mindset is more important than the other, and depending on the situation that you're in, you're going to have to take on these mindsets at different moments. So if we think about it as a set of axes, where the x-axis is this range from imaginative thinking here on the right, and investigative thinking. So imaginative is this really high-level thinking about things that may not exist, things that may not be realistic, but investigative is really thinking about what is possible. And then there's this y-axis of thinking about really high-level, big picture stuff, things like the future, things that are like huge domains, and granular details, which is something like small buttons or small tweaks to an existing page. And these 4 mindsets kind of encapsulate the confluence of these different axes. So the first one we have is the explorer. The explorer is this person who is thinking really imaginatively and thinks with the big picture, and they drive innovation and expand solutions with creative thinking. Next, we have people who think big picture, but are much more investigative and want to know more about data, actual real-life data, and that's the analyst. And they drive understanding of the current customer and the needs that they have yet not been met. Next, we have someone who not only thinks about the reality of things and investigates the reality of things, but they also go into deep thinking and granular detail about how to actually execute on that plan, and that's the challenger. The challenger identifies risks by shining a light on flaws or hidden assumptions. They preemptively address issues before they happen and make sure that whenever we're building, that we're being really realistic about what we're doing and whether or not we're going about it the right way. Then there's someone who is in the details, in the dirt, but they're also really trying to build a future, and that's the evangelist. They build momentum, they motivate the team, they build support, they generate enthusiasm internally for what's being built. And when people are motivated to build something, they're more likely to do it, and they're more likely to do it well. So let's dive into these mindsets a little bit further. So the explorer is a dreamer. They define a product vision. This is one of the main things that product managers do for their team is they build a vision for what they want the world to look like. They think and search broadly for opportunities and solutions to problems. They look at other competitors and other industries and see what they can learn from them and apply to their own domain. They pursue and prototype their ideas in tandem with each other and figure out what's the best way to move towards a future. The analyst is a detective. They set metrics for a product. They measure those metrics. They look at the data and see if the trends are informing their choices, if they're building hypotheses that work with the data, if the data is saying something else, they move that data or they move that product direction to fit the data that they're seeing. They observe and interview customers, and they also do analytics. So interviewing customers means real-time talking to customers, getting qualitative research done on how well their product is meeting the needs of their users. And then they use analytics like data in order to really strongly, numeric data, so quantitative data, in order to really underline the value that the work that they're doing is driving, if there is value. The challenger is the realist hat that you have to put on. They take every idea as a hypothesis that needs to be continually validated and proven to be valuable to continue working. The one thing that's really hard with being a product manager and being in this challenger perspective is that you need to learn, or you need to be comfortable with challenging perspectives and assumptions that anybody in your organization makes, whether or not they're a developer or a leader. And you should be able to ask them, why are we doing something, or why aren't we doing something? They also are people who signal setbacks. You have to communicate negative outcomes and concerns internally early and often, which is sometimes uncomfortable, but a product manager needs to be comfortable doing that in order to move forward with their product roadmap. They also focus their team, prioritize work so that only the most important things are being done, and they cut off extra work when they find that people are being overloaded. So sometimes that means they understand that not all of the stuff that they set out to do will get done, but whatever they do is of highest impact possible. The evangelist is the head that you have to put on, where you become a cheerleader. You communicate the idea with your stakeholders, you get them excited about what you're doing, you let others catch up to the idea, you set context, but you don't actually give solutions. You inform people, you give them the data surrounding the problem space and have them be the decision makers for the solution. And they think beyond their own team and see how the work that they're doing applies to other teams, and building that narrative with others so that they understand why the work that they're doing is important for other products. So that's a lot of stuff. But the thing is that product management is really hard. And what makes product management so hard is that it requires a lot of skill sets in one person. So a product manager is customer focused and a problem solver. They're analytic and data driven. Not only do they inspire and motivate, provide leadership, but they are very strategic and tactical. They're an excellent communicator, but they have to be business and technically savvy. You need to be really competent in a broad array of functionality in order to do well in product management. So the thing I want to call out is that product management is something that usually in industry, it's really hard to be an entry-level product manager. Usually what people do is they spend some time in any one role. Sometimes it's a developer, sometimes it's a business analyst, but it takes a good amount of experience usually to become a product manager. However, more and more you're seeing now that companies are offering what's called an associate product manager track, where they train you on how to be a product manager. The one thing I will call out with being a PM is that it's definitely something where you need to be very informed on multiple domains, but also know when to defer to the expertise of others. And I think the number one thing that you need to be able to handle with being a product manager is you need to be very resilient to change. The product landscape can change in the flip of a hat depending on where a business is or where an industry goes or some news that comes into the market. So being really responsive to change is super important. The other thing I want to call out about being product management is that it's so rewarding to be a PM. And I started out as an engineer, and for me, I found that my skills always lay in high-level thinking and applying the work that I was doing in engineering to a real goal. So I totally encourage anyone who has a strong customer perspective to consider product management as a potential career choice of the future. So with that, I'm going to close out this workshop. Thank you everyone for listening. If you have any questions about this workshop or want to connect or just want to learn more about product management and kind of understand it a little bit better, feel free to email me.